there's misogyny and racism on that side, too.
I don't disagree.
That Democrats begin to examine.
I think that Emma's base is fuck on this. I know people are like, oh, you're too woke, you're making everything about race and sex and no. Biden made it about race.
All fighting about how fast we were going to implement Medicare for all, right? And like, ultimately the votes were
that was
just not there. The political will.
The votes weren't there. The political will's not there. Make it, create it. We need to manufacture the political will. If it doesn't exist, it needs to happen because people need healthcare. I don't like this weak shit, bro. That's something that they now believe because Trump made them believe it. He willed it. He doesn't play these weak games of, oh, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't do that because, I don't know, the votes aren't there. He doesn't care. He gets it done.
I guess I'm somebody that's taken some grief on the internet from even my side because I was somebody who saw a lot of value in Elizabeth Warren's politics and antitrust, and
there's value in Elizabeth Warren's politics too. Like the Warren-Sanders ticket would have been my fucking dream. You put those two styles of politics together, I think you got a pretty undefeatable team, despite what all of the fucking consultants and the devil on PodSave's shoulder is telling you. Oh, but we don't have the votes. Find them. Don't worry, the people will follow. If those liberals can get on that side, if they can get on our team, you have to come to us because we're the ones that are going to win this. The liberals, the Hillary Clintons, the Obamas, the Bidens, the Harrises have fucking failed us time and time and time again. Always cloaked everything in, we need to work with Republicans and we need unity and we need this and that. Fuck that shit. The Republicans don't want to work with us. We don't need to work. We don't need them to do good things. Yes. Trump nosedives economy with insane tariffs. Elon loses big.
Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm
Facts.
Tommy Vietor.
Oh my God. Okay, this is gonna be great.
Both.
Fuck. Damn it. The only problem with this is that I might like end up just mostly not saying anything because like I might end up agreeing with a lot of what they say. It'll be interesting to hear what the Pod Save people have to say because I think I'm gonna have disagreements with them and I'd like to state my opinions and also hopefully have Emma agree with me, you know?
John and Dan are away this week. Happy Liberation Day to them. So we thought we'd take the opportunity to mix things up a little bit in what has turned into a wild news week thanks to President Trump's announcement about tariffs and subsequent stock market crash. So joining me today as my co-host is the excellent Emma Vigeland. She's the co-host of the Majority Report with Sam Seder and one of the smartest political analysts out there. Emma, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Tommy, for the kind words. I really appreciate you having me on today.
I thought that she was out because she flew in. All right, whatever.
I'm very excited to have you on. We are going to talk about the politics of Trump's tariffs, the Democratic Party's big win in Wisconsin, some signs of hope about how Democrats are fighting back, and how to fix some of these lingering divisions between the moderate and more progressive wing of the Democratic Party. Do you think we can
can't wait.
the wounds from 2016 today? Can we finally do it?
I mean,
no.
Never say never, but...
Yeah, never say never, however. Look, can we agree that liberals need to fucking step the fuck up and like get serious about like let's actually do things? Because I'm sick of their fucking whinging. I'm sick of the Kirsten Cinemas and the Joe Manchins. Not that they're like the liberals that I'm really talking about, but like there is a rot within the Democratic Party that is preventing us somehow from being able to do good things. Democrats need to fucking get over it, and the liberals, the voters especially, need to start recognizing that the people that they keep voting in aren't fucking doing the things that they need to be doing to prevent the fucking insane fascists like Trump from seizing and wielding power to the absolute maximum extent that the courts or our system of government generally will allow him to. You know what I mean? So if the liberals, as some of them have started to realize, come to our side and start being more progressive, being more aggressive in fighting for good things, and being more critical of those Democrats who are sort of sitting in the middle that are trying to do the super practical, let's just meander around some like tax credits for this, or our solution is going to be this, you know what I mean? Instead of that bullshit, just fucking give us good things. So we want healthcare, okay? We want paid family leave. We want increased wages. We want basic shit. We want worker power. We want unionization. We want wealth to be redistributed for once in this country, or I guess sort of for the second time in this country's history, to go towards people, to the American people that build this nation, not the concentrating that wealth further and further at the richest people in this country. If those liberals can get on that side, if they can get on our team, you have to come to us because we're the ones that are going to win this. The liberals, the Hillary Clintons, the Obamas, the Bidens, the Harrises have fucking failed us time and time and time again. I get it. Biden's done some good things, and I like the good things that he's done. But at the same time, he was president, and he needed to communicate that he was doing those good things, and the man stayed in his basement and never fucking made a case for himself, and always cloaked everything in, we need to work with Republicans, and we need unity, and we need this and that. Fuck that shit! The Republicans don't want to work with us. We don't need to work. We don't need them to do good things. Be FDR again. Make the voters sign a constitutional amendment that says that presidents can last for more than 2 terms because they love Democrats so much and they don't want to have elections every year because they're like, yeah, our leaders are actually just fucking making life great. You know, like, just do that. It's hard work, but it needs to be done. It feels like a lot of our leaders aren't up to the fucking task right now. Or it seems like they're getting a little bit more whipped into shape, but a lot of it feels kind of hollow. And I feel like we're just going to go back to the same old, like, Buttigieg, like, normal style politics where we try to fucking work with the Republicans where we can, instead of recognizing them for what they are, the fucking enemy. So, yes, we certainly can come together. I'm being, like, very antagonistic right out the gate, which is not the most, the reason, of course, why I would never be invited to such a venue as Emma. But we can be friends. Please, liberals, just see the light, for God's sakes.
We're gonna, I think, move that ball along.
Move the needle. I mean, jokes aside, I'm really, like, excited to talk to you about this because I know you come from more of, like, the DSA, Bernie wing of the party. But
DSA.
you're also pragmatic and constructive and smart and thoughtful. So I just appreciate that about you. And I think,
but also, yeah, like, I know that you come from the Bernie DSA types, and we all normally assume that they're fucking idiots, but, like, you actually seem like pretty thoughtful. So, like, I just want to give you the credit, even though you come from a different area from me, where I used to look down upon them, but, like, I guess we're in a different time now. So, sorry, that's just how I read that. But, like, I don't know. He's trying to be nice. I'm being too mean.
it's a good balance in the show and a good conversation to have and a timely one.
I feel a little stuffed up here because I agree with everything on the tariffs. I don't really have much to say about that, you know? Yeah, okay, great. Sure. Okay, let's get to the fun stuff.
Resting on his laurels.
Let's get to the fun
One
stuff.
person who was not resting on his laurels this week was Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Democrats
He delivered
fighting.
a marathon 25-hour speech on the Senate floor. Booker broke the record for the longest floor speech in history, which had been held by a horrible racist senator named Strom Thurmond when he was trying to block civil rights legislation. Here's a clip of what Cory Booker had to say during part of this long speech.
Okay.
I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business of the United States Senate for as long as I am physically able. I just found out that the community violence intervention money that you allowed me to fight so hard to get in that bill is being clawed back by Donald Trump. If you're revoking somebody's visa, make a phone call, tell them that you have 30 days to leave. But there should be due process. I've had farmers from New Jersey to Texas coming to my office about this president freezing contracts that we approved in a bipartisan manner.
So my view on Cory Booker, on Bernie and AOC doing the town halls, Ro Khanna's town halls, all the members of Congress and in the Senate who are filming vertical video and clearly not comfortable with it and don't want to be doing it anymore. It's like, good for you. Like, keep putting up shots. I'm proud of you guys. Like, more is more. I think the point you made earlier is the most important one, which is we worry way too much about what we say and not about whether what we say is reaching people, and breaking through is the hardest part. So we just got to keep putting shots on goal. To your point about a simple message, my constructive criticism for Cory Booker would be, again, I'm really glad he did this, but my one note,
are we going to agree?
Like, it was not always clear to me what he was filibustering about, like what the simple message
was
that's
or
true. Purpose of the filibuster.
There should have been more
messaging I saw.
There should have been something
that he did
more
it, which, of course,
focused.
It's cool, and I'm proud of him, and I think it's awesome. But it's I think we need to be like,
that's a fair criticism. Cory Booker's messaging on this should have certainly been a lot more focused on, I don't know, 2 or 3 big things. Elon Musk's wrecking of federal agencies, destroying Social Security, blah, blah, blah. USAID destroying soft power. Trump applying tariffs just unilaterally to all countries as if we're in a war with everyone, as if they're all taking advantage of us, as if we're actually some fucking we're the tiny little babies that everyone's just like taking just bullying around the world when we're actually the world's create a superpower. And I don't know. There's another like big issue or that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. Oh, the fucking revocation of due process. That's another huge one that needs to be dealt with. Like, it would have been nice if he had focused on 3 of these like really big things. Maybe the due process one's like a little tricky because it's like, unfortunately, the Republicans have really successfully messaged on immigration, and there's a lot of both Republicans and sometimes American, like just Democrats, other liberals, people in the middle, independents that have sort of they drank the Kool-Aid of the Republicans' framing on immigration and aren't that concerned about due process being eliminated. And it sounds like wonky and political and very temporal, like, oh, I'm sure Trump won't do that again, you know, like this was just to get Tren de Aragua out, and look, now they're gone or something. Of course they're not, like they're gonna have to be perpetually there, but yeah, there's something to that. Hold on 1 second. I have to go do something. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Like, look, you know, the State of the Union protest was you don't have a mandate to cut Medicare, right? Representative standing up there shaking his what's his name? God, I'm forgetting his name.
Al Green.
So right. Oh yeah. The fact of them cutting Medicare or Medicaid can also be wrapped up under one of the things that I was talking about, which is the Elon Musk and him cutting the federal agencies and the Republicans intentionally cutting federal programs and things that are important. Like, so I came back because I had to I was watering a plant and it was soaking for a bit. I had to take it out. Yeah, I don't know. There's some very key issues that need to be really focused on that I wish were more central to what Cory Booker was talking about. Like, he had 25 hours, so there's plenty of time to go off on tangents, but it would have been really good to keep focusing and really hammering on like 3 central, very core, most important Democratic priorities and messages when it comes to halting the insanity that the Trump administration is engaging with, right? Yeah. So let's let everyone else give their opinions.
Al Green, Jesus Christ.
Yes, right.
Al Green's shake his hair. You don't have a mandate to cut Medicare.
That was amazing.
Booker's was less clear.
It was good.
To your point earlier, too.
And Al Green's was also not the best, but like it was a singular protest. It did put a spotlight on a single thing. It didn't change anything at the end, but it is important that the Democrats are showing that they're doing something. And again, Cory Booker doing something is good. But yeah, could have been more focused. Slight criticism, though. I don't want to stand for 25 hours and talk.
I mean, I think Democrats do worry a bit about expectations management. I know you heard that a lot early on. Like, we have no power, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the House. You know, even the Tim Walz comments you mentioned earlier about how, you know, voters are going to be expecting universal Medicare. Like, on the part of me, like the angel on my shoulder, that makes me excited because I would love to see us move to a universal system. The anxious political
Do you?
On my shoulder thinks back to, you know, the 2020 2019 debates where we were
What do you mean? What about it? What's the problem?
all fighting about how fast we were going to implement Medicare for all, right? And like ultimately the votes were
that was
just not there. The political will.
The votes weren't there. The political will's not there. Make it. Create it. What a weak fucking. Get that devil off your shoulder, dipshit. What the fuck? The devil on your shoulder should be saying, how do we message to the American people a way, like something that makes sense to them that makes this the political will? We need to manufacture the political will. If it doesn't exist, it needs to happen because people need healthcare. I don't like this weak shit, bro. Trump doesn't play this game. Trump doesn't play this game of, oh, I don't know, like, are the American people going to be like really offended or hurt when I use the Alien Enemies Act to fucking from 1798, last used under Japanese internment, to just like remove what I or ICE deems as members of Venezuelan gangs without having any of that go through any sort of process, without getting rid of all due process, and just shipping them off, accidentally sending legal residents and legal citizens out at the same time. To be fair, I don't think legal citizens, some have been detained but not deported. There have been legal U.S. citizens that were like natural born citizens that were detained for months at a time because of the raids that ICE has been doing. Don't get that twisted. So some of them have been detained and then some released. Some are still detained. We don't exactly know how many, and these stories are still coming out. But there's certainly people who were here very legally, had every right to be here, that were deported supposedly because they were in a gang, when that's literally not true, and there was no due process to prevent, to provide the evidence to suggest that that was true. My point is, Trump doesn't back away from this shit. He keeps doing it. It's strong and it's working for a huge chunk of his base. Obviously, there's plenty of Democrats who are screeching in opposition to this, but like they are getting through and successful to some degree, even though it makes me really fucking depressed on the immigration issue. They make it that way. It's not just some latent feeling that people were like, oh yeah, I mean, we probably should get rid of due process to get rid of these gang members. That's not something that was just like a natural inclination for voters. That's something that they now believe because Trump made them believe it. He willed it. He doesn't play these weak games of, oh, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't do that because, I don't know, the votes aren't there. He doesn't care. He gets it done. Democrats need to have way the fuck more of that attitude, in my personal opinion. I hate this devil on, what's his name? Tyler? I forget his name. I hate the devil on his shoulder that's telling him to be like, oh, I don't know, the votes aren't there, so like, what are we even arguing about? Make the votes be there. Fucking message on it. It's like, you need to make it clear that it's necessary, that this is something that we need to do if we want to keep winning. It's so simple. Democrats, if we get single-payer healthcare, we will keep winning. The voters will vote. They will come out and vote for us if they all suddenly have healthcare. It's not that difficult. Like 50 state sweep type territory. I don't care if you can't win the votes in the Senate right now. You need to get them to will their voters to understand that this is the way that we need to go. I don't know. I want strength. I don't want this weak. I don't know if we're there yet. I don't know. The votes might be hard to get together. Deal with it. Fight with it. Use your leverage. If the people in 2019, 2020, during those primaries, were running for the leader of the free world, you have tremendous leverage and power and ability to push your Democratic representatives to believing that we should all have healthcare. That's not that difficult. Or it shouldn't be that difficult. Like, to admit that that's a difficult thing either is a direct sign of your unwillingness and weakness, or it's direct evidence of the actual strength and power that the pharmaceutical and insurance industries, like all these lobbies, have over the politicians, and the fear that those Democrats experience when they're like, what happens if we go against their will, right? It's got to be one of them, and both of them are really fucking sad. Because Trump doesn't seem to give any fucks. Granted, he has the businesses on his side for the most part, because they know that they will be able, especially the wealthiest of them, will be able to weather the storm, whatever he creates up. You get what I'm saying, right? But like, that's the struggle for progress. There are the rich people that are hoarding wealth and power that don't want that wealth and power to be redistributed to regular citizens. They don't want to empower the citizens. As Democrats, we have to be like directly opposed to their wills, because they harm all of us. Their greed harms all of us. We need to be on the same team on this, and we need to make Democrats understand that. So I don't care about this fucking, we don't have the fucking votes right now. Well, find the fucking votes. Bully them. If you're running for leader of the free world, bully them to believing the obviously morally correct position. Use some of your freaking leverage, dude. Use some strength. Use your spine, backbone, cojones.
Will wasn't necessarily there, so I don't want to like raise people's expectations and then let them down and have another generation of people feeling like, oh, the fucking Democrats, they promise so much and they don't deliver. But I guess right now in this moment, all I want to see is people fighting and doing things and like putting their hearts out there and making the case. And I think that's why I thought what Cory Booker did was good.
I agree with you, and
Fine.
I think, to bring it back to your comment a little bit earlier about Biden and his inability to really. He was unable to use the bully pulpit for
precisely
at all. And we're getting more reporting about his condition, and I really do think he set Kamala Harris up to fail in many ways, and I think that was a dereliction of his duty.
Not in many ways. I think that's like directly, it's obviously directly correlated, but I think it's also causative. Like I think he's the main reason she lost.
Country, but it also was a problem in which the Democrats didn't perform democracy. So a lot of the messaging in this election was rightly, as we're seeing, that Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy, as he demonstrated on January 6th. Mm-hmm. Okay, But first you have to sell to the American public that democracy, as you're describing,
functioning, yeah.
not just as a virtue, but in practice, is something that needs to be protected. And you may think that's self-evident, back to our point about how the Democrats feel like they should be above communicating these things. You may think that it is self-evident, but why is democracy so important to protect? And I think Cory Booker agreed with what you had to say about like maybe the lack of specificity, or perhaps I would love if it was, focused on those broad-based social programs a little bit more. But overall, it's a really good thing because at the very least, you are performing services to your constituents. You are performing the act of standing up to somebody who is an authoritarian and showing folks what it's like to be politically empowered. There's an old phrase, you'd rather be strong and wrong than basically weak and losing. And I really do think the Democrats could be okay with being strong and wrong and swinging for the fences and then maybe not necessarily delivering on everything. Although I think that the conditions now, given what we've talked about with oligarchy, given what we've seen with Donald Trump and how he's so carelessly wielded the executive branch for whatever the hell he wants. Like, I think a lot of Democrats are going, why can't we do that? Why can't we have a president that acts in a manner that addresses the urgency of our both economic situation, but also when it comes to systemic racism or the Supreme Court or abortion rights? I mean, there's a lot of ways that I think Democrats can show that they are democratically responsive, because when it comes back to Biden, a primary would have done this, right? You would have you would have heard Democrats speak about and hash this stuff out. You would have heard what these different Democrats stand for, even if Kamala Harris wasn't the nominee in the end. And that would have been a performance of democracy that would have bolstered the underlying message about Trump's threat to democracy, because it would have shown that he took it seriously in practice. And I think that when I speak to people who are not really politically engaged, just kind of
the biggest thing is they're gonna say, like, we vote for people in the government, but then what do they do for me?
Every day, person that has some family members, right?
There we go.
They'll say, well, the Democrats are liars too. Biden was so old, and what did they do about it?
That's true. They are liars. That's true. Yeah.
And I think that, like, again, when we bring it back to this information age, having a president that couldn't use the bully pulpit and who chose not to perform democracy because he wanted to hang on to power for another term was a really, really bad cocktail to give to the American public with Trump on the ballot.
Yep.
Yeah, and he was self-evidently too old. And there was a suggestion in 2019 in a Politico story that he...
I love that, like, Pod Save can just say it now, but, like, the Democratic Party did gaslight, and Pod Save did gaslight us for a long time, saying that, like, no, he's not too old. It's just, like, I don't know, maybe it's better to pass the torch, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. All I'm saying is there were progressive shows that were saying he's obviously too old. And then there was like a huge, a crazy wall of propaganda from the Democratic Party saying, no, he's perfectly fine. He's perfectly healthy. He's shipshape. He's going to be fine. He's going to be great. And I would go so far as to wager that Pod Save was also a part of that sort of, I was going to say cottage industry. You get what I'm trying to say. Like that sort of, not propaganda machine, but like the sort of willfully ignoring the facts in front of your eyes because it's inconvenient to our political goals,
Be a one-term president and viewed himself as a bridge to the next generation. I think all of us bought into that and believed it. And I think the 2022 midterms happened. The White House started to believe its own spin and decided that only Joe Biden could win again. And then, you're reading, I don't want to belabor these books, but there's all these Biden books coming out. And you're starting to read anecdotes about like top aides in the Biden campaign talking about how disastrous the debate prep was and how Biden had no second-term agenda and couldn't articulate what he wanted to do.
Yep.
And then also at the same time saying that it was wrong for him to have dropped out or to have gotten pushed out.
Insane.
How can you possibly believe that? It's like it was not only Joe Biden. I mean, the sin was Joe Biden.
How did Pod Save react to Biden dropping out? Did they think, like, immediately after the debate, what were they saying? I'm curious now because, like, I don't know. Maybe Pod Save was saying, okay, it's time for him to drop out. Maybe they were. My guess is that they had a sort of reflexive, no, my party's collapsing. We have to stick with Biden, though. He can do better. I just have a feeling that they might have been more inclined that direction. But good to recognize the truth of that now.
For re-election, but then the month between the fucking debate and him dropping out just absolutely screwed Kamala Harris, foreclosed any chance of doing some sort of...
Yes, but like I think it's more fair to say that like the damage had already been done, man. Like Biden had already done the damage. I don't know that the extra month would have really helped all that much. I mean, like it would have helped, but like it wouldn't have turned the tide. God damn it.
I gotta lose the race. Thing that made her, I think she ultimately would have been the nominee no matter what, but that would have made it look like it came through a legitimate process and not this coronation via a Joe Biden statement. He just sort of screwed us throughout that whole time period.
Kind of, yeah. Again, other people could have run against her if they wanted. Like she said she would be willing to run in the primary. It's just like after she did get the endorsement, a very good leg up from Biden, it really didn't leave a lot of room for Democrats to feel confident enough. Maybe if one was strong enough, but unfortunately we don't have any of those. So, yeah.
Kamala Harris, she's okay. She's not a victim, and I had some issues with how she ran her campaign. Obviously, I thought the elevating of Liz Cheney was insane.
Yeah, that
But
was really, really
I
dumb.
feel
There was no reason to do that.
her in the sense where I think a lot of women have experienced this in their professional lives. I am not shading Sam Cedar here. I just want to be clear, but older men who often think that they know better and will talk down to you and are dismissive of you broadly, because a lot of the reporting is that she was broadly sidelined, and
Yep,
he
100%.
elevated the fact that he wanted to appoint a black woman as his VP instead of just doing it. And I think that gave this opening for the Republicans to attack her in this like racist and misogynistic way. And the fact that he didn't really groom her as his successor, there should be probably a bit of soul searching on the Biden side as to why they were so dismissive of somebody who has great credentials and who has been a senator, attorney general, went to Howard, smart person.
Yep.
Their politics were similar. Why they didn't choose to give her a leg up and elevate her as Biden's potential successor instead of just throwing her in at the 11th hour when Biden couldn't do it, and then he was calling her and saying, don't break from me at all, even though obviously my approval rating is in the gutter. So there's misogyny and racism on that side too,
I don't
in my
disagree.
view, that the Democrats begin to examine.
I think that Emma's base as fuck on this. I know people are like, oh, you're too woke, you're making everything about race and sex and no. Biden made it about race for picking, and about sex by picking her. He said, I want to pick a black woman for VP. Like, that's kind of what he said. And it's true that he sidelined her. All of what she's saying is true. Like, if you want to chalk that up to like a sort of inherent misogyny or sexism on Joe Biden's angle, maybe. He's more old-fashioned. I could see it. It's not unbelievable, but I think it's also like, it is important to mention that this is definitely a component of what harmed her. Whether it was intentional misogyny or like subconscious, or if it was just like he really thought that he was like protecting her or something. I don't care what the intentions were. He ultimately did sideline her. He ultimately didn't help her become like the sort of successor to the party. All of what Emma's saying is true. And it's like, regardless of what Biden's intentions, subconscious or not, were about the way that he treated Kamala, it did give a lot of fodder to the opposition in framing her as DEI hire, as candidate who hasn't done anything, who wasn't really allowed to do much of anything, who never was given the spotlight, who was never shown, like they never tried to push her that hard, right? I mean, I get Biden wants to shine, but like, you're supposed to be the bridge to the next generation. That was the whole point of your campaign and your presidency. Never explicitly said first one-term presidency, but we all sort of implicitly believed that because we knew you were too fucking old. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. It did, at least, like, the misogynistic element of her being a woman and also black, like these racist and misogynistic, sexist elements definitely played into her losing the election. I guess I just, I cast a little doubt as to whether or not, like, Biden's internal misogyny is what drove him to treat her that way, or if it was just, like, he was just kind of incompetent and didn't feel the need, or he felt no necessity to, like, try to actually make her the next leader of the party. Maybe he didn't even believe in her. Maybe he didn't see it himself, which would be even sadder.
About themselves and some of the leaders in the party, frankly.
And, frankly, they kind of kneecapped her publicly in the days following the debate performance by releasing that memo that crapped on a lot of people, including me, but referred to like self-important podcasters. But, talked about how all the polling showed that Joe Biden was beating all of his rivals, including Kamala Harris. It was like, guys, you're shitting on your own vice president. What are you doing here? But anyway, so the final question for you, like the flip side of our mostly happy, mostly constructive talk is there are some corners of the internet, mostly Twitter, where it feels like 2016 never ended. It's like 2016 Groundhog Day. You see, moderates pointing the finger at leftists and blaming them for election losses. You see the kind of more red rose DSA crew angry that liberals are punching left or suggesting that anyone who doesn't hold, kind of like the maximalist policy position is a sellout or a corporate stooge or whatever. How do you think? Totally.
I guess, a very normal thing that I'm seeing amongst the quote unquote max left. This is at least how Jenk sees the internet. I don't know. I guess have to identify myself as part of the max left. I just don't do this. So I don't believe that it really exists in any material sense outside of people who care more about politics as like an identity thing more and like a virtue signaling thing more than like, let's actually try to get power.
I think we get past this. Like, can we heal these divides, or is it just the reality that intra-party fighting always feels and is the
damn it.
worst because it's your friends fighting with your friends?
I think it's a tough question. I do think we're in a better position, as I said earlier, than after 2016. I'm hopeful that folks deploy an intersectional analysis of why the Democrats lost.
Continue.
And it is very much a lack, in my view, of focus on broad-based social programs with a vision that we haven't seen like since the New Deal, or really since Medicare or Medicaid. These are the kinds of things that we're due. It's time to propose these kinds of broad social programs for people. That's a huge
True. Big time. Big time. So he's going to disagree with you, I think. He's got the devil on his shoulder that's like, but I don't know. I don't think we have the votes. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how he responds to that.
huge part of it. But I also think that COVID broke a lot of people's brains. We're in an
That's true.
extremely reactionary time period. There's a Me Too backlash where I don't know if I can remember such a anti-feminist moment. I mean, really, since like the tabloids and the way that they treated women in the early
Like the
2000s,
Gamergates,
that seems so
yeah.
small ball compared to the normalization of this kind of thing at the Trump administration level. I think we can heal these divides by having a shared vision of boldness going into 2028. I think
Yeah,
a lot
boldness
of
helps.
The base is frustrated by the lack of fight in the Democratic
Boldness,
Party,
sincerity,
which aligns much more
confidence.
with how a lot of us felt back in the day. And you see this bear out in Chuck Schumer's poll numbers. They want Democrats to be fighting, and they don't want to constantly be cutting deals. They don't want to have to meet these fascists halfway, because it is the bitch slap theory of politics, and it's all Donald Trump knows. Even if you don't win the fight, you've got to show that you can fight them, because otherwise they're going to walk all over you. And I think that the base is behind that as a broad.
Yes, Emma. Fucking thank you, God. It is true. When Biden, like, that's what the energy was when Biden's like, we have to work out. I'm reaching out to my Republican colleagues and friends to get this done and blah, blah, blah. It looks like he's like, oh, so you don't have any fight in you. So you're just basically going to capitulate to them and let them steer like huge parts of the conversation to get your bipartisan, like for the sake of bipartisanship, when of course, when they get power, they will do no such thing. And if you do have power, which they did at the time outside of the Supreme Court in Biden's first 2 years, if you have the power, they will do everything that they can to stop you, unless you're willing to do the unity, in which case they're like, okay, but like, we're going to cut all the stuff that we don't want. And then you just like sort of like lay your hand out and say, okay, fine, I guess that's fine. And then we end up getting like 5%, 10% bills that of what we really need in this country to make people feel like the government actually functions for them, and convince them to want to vote for you again. But whatever. Yeah.
Vision for how the party should move, anti-oligarchy, and also fighting, right? And we didn't have that in the wake of 2016. There was just arguing.
Am I driving on one hand?
And it was a lot of Bernie supporters saying, hey, we were right the whole time. These were the kinds of politics that we should pursue. But as I said earlier,
True.
you know, I guess I'm somebody that's taken some grief on the internet from even my side, because I was somebody who saw a lot of value in Elizabeth Warren's politics and antitrust and
There's value in Elizabeth Warren's politics too. I think that like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, like the Warren Sanders ticket, or rather Sanders Warren ticket, would have been my fucking dream. I think you can like effectively coalesce those. Hey, like we have to break up these banks and make them work for the people, because they are screwing over potentially the global economy with their investments. We need to rein them in. And Bernie Sanders, we need to tax them more on top of that, and then use some of that money to get you fucking healthcare and basic shit that like every one of these other developed nations around the world has. We can do it. We're the richest country on the planet. Let's do it. Let's invest in ourselves. When we invest in ourselves, we elevate ourselves. We make ourselves more able to do more productive work. We become even richer. We have to invest in ourselves, and we can't allow these rich people to keep hoarding their money. You put those two styles of politics together, I think you got a pretty undefeatable team, despite what all of the fucking consultants and the devil on PodSave's shoulder is telling you. Oh, but we don't have the votes. Find them. Don't worry, the people will follow, as they did very like in wild numbers and across many different coalitions with Bernie Sanders. So,
and going about making people's lives better within the set of circumstances that are given to us, right? And so I can say, like, yes, I support decommodifying housing. I support a universal healthcare program. I support free college for all, and a foreign policy that is a lot more humane than what we've been seeing. But I can also understand that we have to have the requisite dexterity to respond to the far right fascist elements that we're with right now. So we can't all be perfect allies. We have to come together, and perhaps through that process of coming together and fighting Donald Trump, we will come out the other end with a more cohesive vision of how to move forward. But I don't think
so. I'm not convinced yet.
Anti-oligarchy stuff can't just be for the benefit of electoral politics. This has to translate into the Democrats
has to be
taking on
like
campaign finance
into
reform.
their policy. Campaign finance reform needs to be fucking dealt with.
Totally agree.
And also pairing that with broad-based social programs that tax the rich. We
Yes.
have to tax the rich. We have to return to higher marginal tax rates. I'm not even saying we need to go to what it was like in the post-World War II era where we were at our most industrious and the country was growing. I'll settle for pre-Reagan numbers. But really, these billionaires are out of control. And governments, what they do, they redistribute wealth. It's just a question of how we choose to redistribute this wealth. And we are at such catastrophic levels of income and wealth inequality that, frankly, many people in our body politic are not making sane choices about who they're electing for president. So how do we make sure that we cut off some of these reactionary elements, make sure that people's basic needs are met, and we are past due for a broad-based social program like a Medicare for All or something that helps people in that manner?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like a shared vision of boldness, candidates that look like they're fighting.
Good.
Barack Obama ran on, not taking PAC money and a whole bunch of efforts to clean up Washington in the wake of the Jack Abramoff scandals of 2006, which old heads might remember. I totally agree with you that economic inequality is completely out of control, and figuring out some just clear, simple formulation for how you're going to get it in line, whether it's a billionaire's tax, whether it's Elizabeth Warren, 2% of assets, whatever it might be. And then I do think, like, for the next 4 years, we just have to go about coalition building where we're all mindful of the need to build the biggest possible tent. Like, the coalition to end the war in Gaza in the Trump era has to include like the isolationist Rand Paul Republican types, and then the far left, and those of us who care about the people in Gaza can't be, purists. We can't say that you have to say the word genocide to be a part of this coalition. You can't say you have to believe exactly what I believe, because that's just bad politics, right? The lesson from
That's
around
hard.
the world.
100%. I also, yeah.
Me, but yeah, I'm trying.
I know.
Look, I mean,
I know what you mean. I think that there are people who are progressive that have been brainwashed on the Israel stuff, and we need to be able to like have reasonable conversations with it. If they're going to react vitriolically to the word genocide, maybe we just try to find other words to describe it. Like I am 100% of the not in an ideological sense, right? I believe it's genocide. At this point, it's not even a question. But like, if I'm like, I am. And I'm never backing off of ethnic cleansing. We're effectively like it's objectively that. If we don't want to make the international law requirement of intent behind genocide, then we can very easily fall on like any stable definition of ethnic cleansing that very adequately describes what's happening in Gaza right now, or for the last year, or over a year. Point being, it's important that we don't have to necessarily nitpick over these things, and we don't have to like fight people on it either.
I mean, you mentioned Obama. I was 14.
It depends.
Right?
Like,
into
like if you're gonna be like, if we're completely opposed and you're like, well, no, what Israel's doing is right actually, and it's good. This is what had to happen. Did you know that Hamas dropped shot some missiles into Israel that they defended with Iron Dome? Yeah, but those could have killed like. Who knows how many Israeli kids, which would have meant like at least 10,000 Palestinian lives. Yeah, like fucking. Like if you believe like that, then okay, we can be like vitriolic towards that. But like but like otherwise.
Listen, Nate, that was what Obama's candidacy is why I cared about politics. It's literally what got me interested, and it was truly his opposition to the Iraq War. And I think that sometimes there's this consensus in Washington that there are people that don't vote on foreign policy, and I don't think that's true anymore, especially when you can see children whose brains are falling out of their head and their fathers wailing over their carcass on your phone. Like, this had an effect of really muddying the waters of the morality of the two political parties that can get elected in this bipartisan system. And I think that the Democrats really are doing a disservice if they don't reckon with how they damage their brand with young people.
No, that's true.
By supporting this.
That's true.
No, I'm not arguing that. I've been opposed to this war from the very beginning. I'm talking about like the way we talk about issues, the way we decide who can be part of a coalition or a movement, and just making sure it's as broad as possible, because authoritarian movements...
I agree. I actually might be sort of agreeing with Pod Safe here.
Where they do well when the opposition, the left usually, is divided. That's how they succeed, because they rarely get 50% of the vote. They're like winning with pluralities at like 43, 44%, sort of Trumpian numbers. And I think it's just a good lesson to learn. But we covered a lot of ground, Emma. Thank you so much for doing the show today. It was great talking with you. I really appreciate it, and hope to do it again soon.
I would love that. Thanks so much for having me, Tommy, and I really
Nice.
appreciate all the work you're doing. You're a bright spot in this insane media environment.
I got something out of this.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break before we get to
Okay, I got something out of this. That was good. Don't look at my recommended. What is it? Okay, it's just like mostly politics, some video game stuff, some like editing, video editing things, some some gaming shit. All right. This could be worse. I mostly use this channel for politics, but sometimes I watch fun videos on here. Okay, yeah, good times.